If traditional marriage is not the law of the land, the institution of the family will cease to exist. God has called us to be His representatives in our nation and in our world. Select candidates who represent your views and work for their election. I'm certain that most couples expect to find intimacy in marriage, but it somehow eludes them. One of the most important responsibilities in the Christian life is to care about others, smile at them, and be a friend to the friendless. My observation is that women are merely waiting for their husbands to assume leadership. Sometimes we're so concerned about giving our children what we never had growing up, we neglect to give them what we did have growing up. I don't believe that homosexuals really want to marry. Most of them, they're all different, and some have different views. My legacy doesn't matter. It isn't important that I be remembered. It's important that when I stand before the Lord, He says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." I want to finish strong. Clearly, the Scripture tells us that we lack the capacity to grasp God's infinite mind or the way He intervenes in our lives. How arrogant of us to think otherwise. Trying to analyze His omnipotence is like an amoeba attempting to comprehend the behavior of man. Unfortunately, many young believers, and some older ones too, do not know that there will be times in every person's life when circumstances don't add up, when God doesn't appear to make sense. This aspect of the Christian faith is not well advertised. Don't marry the person you think you can live with. Marry only the individual you think you can't live without. The United States has been from the beginning greatly influenced and primarily influenced by the Judeo-Christian system of values. If 2 men or 2 women can marry, then there is no way a court could deny 3 men and 2 women or any combination thereof. I don't blame homosexuals for being angry when people say they've made a choice to be gay, because they don't. Although individual temperaments vary, boys are designed to be more assertive, audacious, and excitable than girls are. Children are not casual guests in our home. They have been loaned to us temporarily for the purpose of loving them and instilling a foundation of values on which their future lives will be built. Males and females are unique and different, because their brains are different. There's not a limitation on girls. My grandmother was very strong, and so was my mother. She also knew what it meant to be a woman and wife and was very successful at it. Politics is dirty. Politics is exciting. Politics is often very, very difficult and disappointing. And I really would rather the world would be a little more like it was when my dad was young, where you knew pretty much where people stood on the great moral issues. There is no greater privilege in living than bringing a tiny new human being into the world and then trying to raise him or her properly during the next 18 years. Doing that job right requires all the intelligence, wisdom, and determination you will be able to muster from day to day. Clearly, unless the Lord chooses to explain Himself to us, which often He does not, His motivation and purposes are beyond the reach of mortal man. What this means in practical terms is that many of our questions, especially those that begin with the word "why" will have to remain unanswered for the time being. Homosexuals can be, committed to each other. And they have freedom to behave in the ways that they do, but they cannot be a family. They cannot be married. I mean, virtually every culture in the history of the world has considered marriage to be between one woman and one man.